Hello and welcome to Global Sanctuary for Elephants podcast, Global Rumblings. Global Sanctuary for Elephants, or GSE for short, is a non-profit organization with a mission to create vast safe spaces for captive elephants where they are able to heal physically and emotionally, often from very traumatic pasts. I'm your host, Nadia Mari, and I'll be taking you to the lush jungle of the Mato Grosso region in central Brazil, home of GSE's initial project, Elephant Sanctuary Brazil. Currently home to 6 female Asian elephants, lovingly referred to as the girls. Hi, welcome, and thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of Global Rumblings. Today I will be talking to Kat and Scott Blaze about Ramba, the 4th Asian elephant to arrive at the sanctuary in Brazil. So without much further delay, let's head on over to Brazil. Hello, Kat. Hello, Scott.
Hey, Nadia. How's it going?
Hey, Nadia.
Yes, it's good. It's good. I can't quite believe it's autumn here. The summer sort of has not been very existent here in Germany. So please do not bore me with the details of how hot it is with you guys. Yes, just fingers crossed that it will be a warmer and less wet September and then also October here in Germany.
We'll take your rain and we'll give you some warmth. How's that?
Oh, okay. Sounds like a good deal. So before we talk this week about Ramba, dubbed the last circus elephant in Chile, I'd just like to say, because I totally forgot, congratulations on 10 years of Global Sanctuary for Elephants, which was actually in August.
Thank you.
Woo. We're still alive. We haven't killed anyone. Yes. We haven't killed each other. It's all good.
No, 10 crazy, exciting years that have gone by way too fast. Yeah.
Everybody who has joined us and listened, you have taken us on the journey of these last 10 crazy years. And yes, so congratulations, absolutely amazing. So here's to the next 10, definitely. And maybe Bob, the producer, can add not a corkscrew. Oh, well, uncork a bottle of champagne and we can let it pop. So we'll have a nice, we can have a trunk pop. One of the elephants do a trunk pop.
We don't have any trunk poppers here.
No, it used to be Gita.
Yeah, she did a little trunk pop where they do pop the trunk on the ground and it kind of makes a little echo sound. But right now we don't have anybody.
No.
Was Gita the only one who did a trunk pop?
Yeah, pretty much. I know there's somebody else who does it like maybe once or twice a year, but I can't even remember who it is. But I've heard it.
Have something exciting happen yesterday, though, because it's been a while, and I know we've touched based on the different elephants and different things as we're kind of going back through time. And touching base with the different stories.
Did you mention herding fleas or herding cats before we started this? Go ahead. It's all good. Go.
Yes, I'm going on a different tangent.
What's that? What's the screeching noise in the background?
Is
a bird?
A little blackbird.
There's a bird that's trying to make a nest at the front of the container house. They have little square openings, and apparently they are perfect places for nests. So it's all good.
Very loud. Oh, wow.
And we have macaws over by the other house, so it's probably good we're recording here because the macaws are really, really loud.
He's very loud. He's very loud today. Okay, so yes, we did talk about herding fleas.
All right, so we're going to herd fleas just for a second, or try to for a second. So yesterday, when Pocha passed away, Deja obviously and understandably withdrew a fair bit. She closed herself off, and she's still been vocal, but not like she was. You guys all remember the celebrations when Pocha and Gijamina would come over and both be super sweet. And,
yeah.
A lot of times it was Deja being affectionate with her mom and her mom being affectionate with us. Mm-hmm. But there was still a lot of vocalization and a lot of celebratory little parties. And yesterday, Deja came over the fence and she did her little squeak, squeak, squeak as she came out of the fence, and a big trumpet, and then more squeaks and another huge trumpet. And then she did a little head tap on the fence, which is something she used to do with her mom. Sorry, Bob, we're going to have screeching birds also. But something she did when she was playing with her mom. So it was really, really sweet to see that side of her come back out, and like all of us, there's pieces of us that kind of go in hiding for a while. And so it's nice to see them come back. And thinking about screeching celebration, we may have a little friend with us all throughout the day today.
I'm sorry, I can't stop laughing about that bird all the time. And I'm thinking we've got like not a celebrational trunk pop, but a celebrational little screech.
Yes.
Yes.
A different type of festa. Okay, so on with Ramba to get back on track and get the fleas all aligned.
And I'm so ADD, so I'm going to get lost in the bird. Ooh, now there's a bird in the house. Oh, it just flew out of the house. Okay.
Yeah, this is that happens when you live in an open air facility. We talked about it before. Our house is pretty much open all the way around, and it's great because it is ideal climate for the elephants, pretty much ideal climate for humans. But the birds end up taking advantage of the shelters and just over our head down into the valley. So it's also amazing here with all the wildlife and all the birds and all kinds of fun stuff. So on to Ramba.
Please.
Take it away.
No, not me. You.
So off to Ramba. So many of you know by now that Ramba was a huge inspiration for sanctuary being created here in Brazil. I think we've talked about her in the past in different times. She was, when we first got involved with Elephant Sanctuary Brazil, it was just after her rescue from the circus. But we never had a chance yet to talk about her rescue and all that was. Our first contacts with the group Ecopolis that was working in Chile goes back to before we even left the sanctuary in Tennessee. So probably 2010, 2009-ish. And we left the sanctuary in Tennessee, I think 2011, if I recall. And they were trying to find a solution for her. And we had actually paid for Dr. Mel Richardson, the sanctuary in Tennessee, paid for Dr. Mel Richardson to go there and do a physical assessment on her to see, is she fit for travel? What is the scenario going to be? And he recommended, because she was still on the circus lot and they were uncooperative. And although she had been confiscated by the circus, she was still, because there's nowhere to send her in Chile or out of Chile, they left her in the custody of the circus. So Dr. Mel Richardson went there and he did an assessment on her as much as he could. And he said, bottom line for her, she's weak. She is shaking a lot. He couldn't tell if it was temperature related or if it was general weakness. Diet was poor. Physical stature was not ideal because of, not a lot of muscle. And he said, can she sustain an airline travel to the United States? He wasn't sure. He said, bottom line is she needs somewhere that can help take better care for now and get her, build up her stamina, build up her strength so she could potentially be transferred to the sanctuary in Tennessee.
So was she confiscated? Sorry, I'm interrupting. So was she confiscated, just for our listeners to understand, due to the new law, the regulations in South America?
No, for her, it was mistreatment and abuse.
Oh.
Her owners weren't fantastic.
Yeah, they were pretty bad. It was pretty brutal with her on multiple occasions, and no more than what you've seen in a lot of videos in Europe and the United States coming out of circuses.
Okay.
But much more proactive, again, as we've said before, much more proactive in South America. When people see even a fraction of the abuse that has been documented in the United States, and put that in comparison, there was a video a number of years ago now, maybe 15 years ago or more, of a person on circus. And it was pre-circus, pre-traveling, and he was going through some training sessions with the elephants and, being pretty vulgar with them. And, when you make them scream, that's when you know how you have their attention.
In the U.S.
Sink your hook into them, and beating the elephants on camera, on undercover camera. And I think he got like a $500 fine, and he's still training elephants, and a video and documents in South America, in Chile, that is just a small fraction of that type of abuse. And she ended up being confiscated. So again, it's attributed to the much more proactive legal system.
As a side note, Ecopolis, who chewed off more than they thought they were going to get, they are a really small animal rights organization, not a lot of funding, did cat and dog stuff. They did some stuff with the street horses and those they had some great lawyers working for them for sure, and dealing with some really good prosecutors there. But when they got involved with Ramba, on the front end, they knew it would be a long battle because legal battles always are. And they were involved for years and years before any of us showed up. But on the back end, with getting her to sanctuary, they expected that to be fairly quick. And as most people know, it was not anything close to quick. So it turned into something nobody expected, but they were great about everything. And without them, she never would have gotten out of circus and never would have gotten here for sure.
You know, without a doubt, they are credited with her rescue for sure. Without a doubt, you know, we
Wonderful.
get a lot of, we always get the accolades, you know, because we are where she came to and where she spent her last days, and we are the ones that coordinated her transport. But none of that would have happened if it wasn't for that very small team of incredibly dedicated individuals. Again, that Scott said it took on much more than they thought. The idea was for her to go to a temporary home, build up strength, go to the sanctuary in Tennessee. And they did find a temporary place. Knowing that the options were limited, they found a place called Parque Safari. It's like a roadside zoo.
It is a roadside, sure.
And they actually gave her about 1 hectare, which is about 2 acres approximately, reasonable compared to most zoos. And let's start off with a nice little pond and some willow trees. And
well, it was only 2 willow trees, which clearly is not enough for 1 elephant.
She destroyed those. But before we get to the Parque Safari, let's go back a little bit. And that, since they did have a place to send her, and during those couple of years, before we left the sanctuary in Tennessee, they had arranged for a couple of people to try to transport her to this temporary location. This was after the visit from Dr. Mel Richardson, and after they had set up this small space at Parque Safari. They 2 attempts.
Sorry to just quickly interrupt you. Is it very windy with you guys? Because I can hear.
Yeah, it's really, really windy today. Sorry, Bob. Sorry, Mr. Editor. We know this is going to be tough to do editing today, but there's really no way to avoid it. So we have a little cover on the microphone, but it's still going to be a little bit windy. For all of our listeners, welcome to Brazil, where the birds are singing and the wind is blowing and the sun is shining. So they had the Parque Safari lined up. Dr. Mel Richardson suggested her to go to a temporary home. They had made a couple of attempts to relocate her. I don't know any of those details. We never heard those details.
No, the only thing we heard about them was that every time they tried to move her, they felt that the circus was doing something. They thought they were using commands to get it so that she wouldn't load into the container. They thought that they were just trying multiple different ways to get it so that she wouldn't move. And unfortunately, they were not successful in getting her to load.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times when people don't have the breadth of experience that we have working with circuses, they don't know the games that are played a lot. So when you're in from the circus, there was definitely conflict with the circus owners trying to stop it from happening. They did not have any cooperation from them at all, and they did not have a lot of protection there. So after we left the sanctuary in Tennessee in October 2011, we were asked to give a proposal on what it would take to move her from the circus. So we wrote that up, told them we needed about 10 days to make it happen. And as time went on, they said they're going to take it to the judge. And it was right before Christmas in 2011 that they said to us, we believe the judge is going to make a determination just after Christmas, like on the 27th. And they said, are you going to be able to, is it possible you're going to be able to come right away? Because it may make a decision to have you, that will have a very short window to make this happen. So we were actually nowhere near where we could leave. So we actually had to drive from Vermont down to Florida. So our little pup at the time could stay with my folks in case this happened. And we ended up getting a call on the 27th. And they said the judge made determination today. We have 10 days as of today. Of course, our proposal was 10 days to make it happen once we were there and once we could have things set up, whatever that prearranged date was going to be. But he said, no, you have 10 days as of today. And Ecopolis said to us, there's an airplane leaving Orlando in 3 hours. Can you make it? We were 3 hours from the Orlando airport. So needless to say, that wasn't going to work. But about 24 hours later, we were on our plane heading down to Chile.
Because if she wasn't moved within this 10 days, the circus was going to be able to keep her. They weren't going to be able to use her for performances or anything, but she was going to have to spend the rest of her life at the circus. Yeah, he said this is the last chance because they had already tried 2 other times. So long story short, we ended up down in Chile, entertaining to say the least. We both had a little bit of Spanish background, but not much. It had been years since I'd
that had influence with Spanish background. And we get there, and it was now because of the holiday, we're arriving right before New Year's, and there's big New Year's celebrations, and we're trying to have some meetings and get things arranged.
But nobody's working. I mean, it's the same thing in Brazil, from Christmas to Carnival. I mean, there's no one doing much of anything as far as government or anything.
Right. So we get there, and the folks who are very, very nice, these volunteers from Ecopolis said, we have things that have going on. We're trying to get things done. They had other campaigns they were working on at the same time. Over the holidays, they had some things going on with the dogs and cats and the carriage rides, the horse carriage rides and such. And said, we're going to have you stay with our grandmother, who's a very sweet grandmother who speaks no English at all. And because we had been running between traveling, road travel, and the holidays and plane travel and all the last minute preparation, we were pretty exhausted. So we basically slept in, went to grandma's spare bedroom, where the bed was really saggy. It
was the weirdest thing. We were so tired, and you walk in and the beds look like they must be from like when she moved in 50 years ago. They are single beds, totally saggy in the middle. But of course, somebody's putting you up in their house, and she's this cute little sweet lady. So we would never complain about anything. But strangely enough, it was like the best sleep ever. We were like in a coma for like 12 hours or something stupid. I mean, it was crazy. I don't know what the magic of the beds were.
I don't know.
But
Grandma's magic, maybe it was the tea she gave us. We don't know. But it was perfect sleep, which was definitely the last night of sleep, good night sleep we had for a while.
Yeah.
And then after getting up, and we were on our way to, we were just going to walk around the town, a little tourist area where they had a huge fireworks display on the New Year's Eve. And we couldn't leave the house without pockets full of candy.
She is so cute. I mean, it was ridiculous.
Really,
so
really charming.
nice.
And everyone was so gracious and so kind and so accommodating. This is what elephant rescues are all about. And this was, it was really enjoyable. It was really a nice welcome. We're still trying to get things set up and trying to talk to her about logistics, and had to get a transport crate because we had nothing set up, because we didn't have, that wasn't part of the plan and this was supposed to be 10 days from the initiation of the transport plan, not 10 days from the judge's determination. So fortunately, I think it was on the 1st, one business opened up. We could go look at their crate, and it was just a transport crate. And initially it said you can make any modifications you want to it. So it was just going to be an open topped transport crate with a hinge door in the front. And this was going to be as protected contact as possible. But knowing that their time frame and the urgency and everything else is going to be really challenging. And we wanted to cut a hole in the bottom of the container that we could pull a chain through, because she was going to have to be chained because we didn't have time to actually make a transport crate.
And the top is open, so you can't exactly have an elephant try to climb out of a crate as you're driving down the road.
And the door is not elephant proof.
No,
it had to be. She had to be contained in there somehow for safety reasons. And then they said, no, you can't cut a hole in it. So it's like, okay, well, there's another wrench in the works. And then we met with another engineer and another person who was a metal fabricator, and they were talking about all these different things that they can do associated with a crate. And it's like, no, this is all getting too complicated. Let's just try to keep this simple. We looked at the transport trailer itself, how that was going to work, and all the logistics there. And I think it was the next 2 days after that, we went to the circus so we could see the location and we could see how it was going to be. So we could make last minute preparations for what equipment was going to be needed. And I think at that point they were feeding for dog food already.
Yeah, they had their children. The adults didn't do it. They had, must have been like a 6-year-old, a 9-year-old, an 11-year-old or whatever, feeding her like an entire 50-pound bag of dog food. Because of course, when you're working with protected contact, it's all through food reward. We're not dragging her into a crate. We're trying to entice her to go into a crate. So they weren't stupid. They didn't want her to leave. So they had these little kids feeding her a ton of dog food, which not only is going to make her full, but probably make her feel like she's sick, and is really, really not good for her.
Right. So we were there with somebody from the transport company who actually spoke English. He was actually from LA originally. Really nice guy, very helpful. And another veterinarian who was associated with Ecopolis, but no one from Ecopolis or the prosecutor's office or anybody else like that was permitted to go into the circus area, even though this is by law. It was a federal decision for us to go there. They could not get the circus would not allow anybody from those factions to go there because of the animosity towards those individuals. So everything was okay. We knew it was not going to be ideal, but we went back, and the plan was to go there the next day and get started.
Yeah, she literally had just this cement pad outside. I'm not good with measurements, so you'll have to whatever. And then this tiny little cage inside that maybe you could have fit like packed 4 elephants squished on top of each other. That was all she had for space, and she could go in and out. And the outside space, the walls weren't even permanent. It was just such a mess. And because of course they dominated her to stay in that little space, that's where she stayed.
Yeah, for a long time she was on a chain in that space. But because of all that had happened, she was not on a chain in that space anymore.
So when she was confiscated from the circus and she stayed at the circus because there was no other land for her to go to, how long was she staying there until you came? Was that weeks, months?
Yeah, it was definitely years, but I don't remember how many years. It was multiple years.
Oh, years. Oh, dear.
Yeah. That was longer than that. But yeah, it was a while.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Okay. And then you had 10 days from the judge's order to move her.
Yes.
Yeah,
no pressure.
Nobody, I know we share a lot in general when it comes to rescues and what's going on. And in some ways it ends up backfiring on us because you get people who are impatient, why aren't they there yet? What's taking so long, so on and so forth. But that's what people don't understand about these things. They take so long. Ramba's rescue from when Ecopolis started working on getting her out of the circus to when she probably got here was maybe 20 years.
Yeah, 15 years.
Altogether. And people just they're usually not privy to the beginning of things or the details even in the middle. They just catch up at the end part, or sometimes not even until the elephants are already there. But yeah, these things take what seems like forever, quite honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah, but these overall processes seem like forever, and we are not brought in from the beginning of the process. We're in this case, we're at the last couple of days to make this happen. So we go there, and at this point, I'll add, because it'll tie into the rest of the story later on, Ecopolis found actually 2 things that happened. One was they found somebody to donate a room for us at the Ritz-Carlton or something very similar, a very, very high-end hotel, which we are street travelers at this point, and did not fit into the clientele, but it was really, really nice, very accommodating. And they had set up a restaurant, a place for us to eat at, a vegetarian restaurant, or not vegetarian restaurant, but somebody that knew the chef that could make vegetarian food for us. So very, very nice, but it was definitely that strange.
That's kind.
You're waiting there in line to go into the restaurant, and somebody says, "Are you Scott and Kat? We have your table ready." So it's rather interesting in all of this chaos as we're trying to make it all work. They took very good care of us. So the next day we go to the circus to get things started. It's supposed to be day 1 of just putting the crate in place, putting up some temporary chains, so make a corridor.
Letting her see it, letting her smell it, maybe, how it is with most of the rescues. The first day is just the introduction to how this is going to go, both for the elephant and for us to see how the elephant responds. Because of course we don't know her. This is the first time meeting her, and we don't know how she's going to respond to any of it.
And seeing how she is in that space, which she could easily destroy, we set things up appropriate for what we thought was her behavior.
And with the time frame we had.
Yes.
With moving the elephants from Buenos Aires, they build up sections like we do with fencing, big steel pipe, concrete, so on and so forth. Those take weeks. They don't take, 2 days. So we worked with what we had.
And I think at this point, by the time all this happened, we're running down to about, by the time we got to the circus and got started with that on that first day, I think we had 4 days left. So we're still pretty short on time because of how everything's coming together. Maybe 5 days left, but irrelevant because she proceeded to dismantle our temporary protection and immediately went to the neighbor's fruit tree. She didn't want to run away. She had been eyeballing a tree over top of the wall for who knows how long and started reaching over the tree to pick the fruit.
So essentially, she had escaped her little paddock. The circus people were supposed to help. It was in the agreement, but of course, that was not remotely the case either. It was in a neighborhood. I mean, it was not like a super crowded neighborhood, but they have the typical, I don't know how high, 6 foot high brick walls between houses. I mean, she could have gone out of the front gate and essentially walked down the block to somebody else's house.
And there's the big cat cages and there's other animals.
Yeah, right across. I mean, from her 30 yards maybe are where all the big cat cages are. And then there's bears and all sorts of stuff over there. So it could have been a significant mess.
So I asked for them to help us and help us get it back in. They said, nope, you're on your own. I said, but our contract says this is what you need to do. And I'll add also to the story that there were 3 security guards from the police force, as well as the representative from Ecopolis and the veterinarian and then the transport company fellow. And they did not help. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to go and put a chain on her leg. She's been chained a million times over and just kind of bring her back into that small space with the chain, which would have worked fine. She's, again, very tolerant. She's very, very good elephant, actually. So I went to go put the chain on the leg and they start yelling, no chain, no chain, no chain in Spanish. I said, but, because I did say chains will only be used if necessary or to secure her once she's in the crate. And they said, your proposal says no chains, no chains. So I said, okay, cool. But the proposal also says you're supposed to help me. So if you're not going to help me, I've got to put a chain on her leg. So I went to go put the chain on her leg and I put it on her leg and they ran over and took it back off. And then they walked away from her. So,
but it's like a brawl at that point. Nobody's actually fighting, but there are people running from all over, I would say mostly circus guys, but it was also women of the circus as well. And I mean, there's got to be like 25 people yelling, running. I mean, it's just like this total mob mentality, which of course the security guards are doing nothing but watching all of this happen.
Yeah, so there's a lot of activity and Ramba's getting a little bit more worked up. And they said, they're yelling at us and they walked away from her. They said, no, she's your problem. You let her out. Like, hey, but I'm trying to fix my problem, which we had under control at that point. You took her chain off. Now it's all yours. And they walked away from her. I'm like, okay, I'm going to go put the chain on her one more time. And you guys are going to back away. And you're going to let me, if you're saying she's mine, then let me do this. So I went to go put the chain on her. And one of the her trainer, the younger guy, came over and he took the shackle and he went to throw the shackle. And as he went to throw the shackle, I caught his hand so he couldn't throw the shackle. And with his other hand, he was going to turn and hit me, like cocked back, ready to punch me in the face. I am not a fighter. God. I don't have those bones. I will cry long before I fight. So I turn around from him. It's like, I don't have the time of day for you. I'm not going to fight you, you piece of junk. And I turn around and I hear, don't you hit him. And Cat's in his face. So like, okay. Cat and I are not married yet. Not even engaged at this point.
Listen, I'm from New York. I'm sorry. I will defend my elephant, my man. It doesn't matter what it is.
But I get to know a lot more who Cat is and what she stands for. We had known each other pretty well at that point. It was a different element, a different side of Cat, a different side to all of us. So at this point, even with Cat in his face, and now wants to hit Cat, but he's not going to hit Cat.
I think he came close.
And Cat didn't hit him, although she really wanted to hit him. And all the security guards are still just hanging out there. They're just watching this happen. So they said, okay, we're going to calm this down. I talked to the security guards. I talked to the lawyer. And I said, look, they're not letting us do what we need to do. It is up to them. They were not letting me take care of her. It's their responsibility.
She's just hanging out throughout all of this.
She's doing nothing.
Okay, we're going to have to end on a cliffhanger. Okay, Bob is waving frantically in the camera, saying that we only have like 3 minutes left. So I think we're going to have to postpone this. Well, luckily it wasn't a brawl, but postpone this very exciting and wow, what a rescue, until our next episode.
Yeah, this is the episode I'll tell my mom not to listen to.
No,
do yourself a favor. Don't listen to this.
This is the worst of it.
The circus was obviously throwing many spanners into the works to stop you. So.
Yes.
Okay.
And for those that are not from UK, a Spaniard is a wrench. So they're throwing lots of wrenches into the works. Yes, for the English, for the American speaking folks.
Translation.
But yeah, so it was interesting. So right now we're just waiting for the judge. He said nope, and then the judge waiting for the lawyer said take a break, and he's going to go talk to the judge and he'll let us know what happens next.
Okay, then unfortunately we will have to wait until next, which will be in the next 2 weeks, to find out how you then managed to secure Ramba and transport her away from the circus to her temporary home, as you said at the beginning of Parque Safari it was called. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Nadia.
We'll catch up and continue on this exciting story then in our next recording.
Sounds good. We look forward to finishing or taking the next episode of Ramba's journey.
Okay, thanks. Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
So that's all for this week. Thank you so much for joining us this week. Sorry to end again on a cliffhanger, but until next time, take care. Make sure you subscribe that you don't miss the next exciting episode to find out how Ramba was rescued from the circus. Bye.